On my time.
No, I just started now.
I'll continue with the announcements then. Don't forget, I noticed you've all brought bags because you're going to take home some apples, aren't you? Because we need them to be taken today. There's some bread there too. Now, it mightn't be the freshest, but you can use it for toast, or you can make crumbs, whatever. But it's just leftovers from Wednesday, so please help us out. Take home some of the apples. And you know, it's the way the Lord works, isn't it? We've heard so many things this morning that sort of reinforces to me that, you know, I'm not responsible for what you're going to hear today because the Lord put it all together. Because I've even got groupies come today because they haven't been able to read the announcements. So thank you, Socks, for coming. And I've enjoyed Socks coming because she hasn't read the announcements, and so she knows that she didn't know that I'm on. So Neil, there you go, I've got one up. Even Snoops has come.
I'll bring a cat, there's plenty around there.
You won't get past the door. Now, I heard Kim talking today in her prayer time when she was saying about the impossible. And she was talking about the supernatural. And even our Prime Minister, who had been returned, knew what I was going to talk about. Because the first thing he said is, I believe in miracles. Today we're going to look at miracle. And that's what I want to look at today. So you can start now, Kim. Thank you. Billy Graham, when he left a meeting one time, and he had a long trip to the airport, and when he got in, there was a brand new stretch limo. He'd never been in one as good as fashion as that. So he said to the chauffeur, I'd love to have a drive of this. So the chauffeur said, well, I can't argue. So he put the chauffeur's cap on and he sat, and the chauffeur got in the back. And so as they're driving along, Billy forgot, you know, they're pretty powerful, and after a while he looked in the rear vision and there's the red and blue lights flashing and pulling him over. So he pulled over, and the officer came and looked in the door, and he stopped and looked in the back and looked in the front, and then he said, I've got to go and talk to my boss, excuse me. So he went back on the phone and he got his boss online, and he said, look boss, I've got a problem here. He said, what? He said, well, I've got somebody really, really important there and I don't know what to do. And he said, who is it? He said, is it, you know, somebody like a parliamentarian? No, he said, it's more important than that. He says, is it the Premier? No, it's more important than that. And he said, he says, the Governor General. He says, it's even more important than that, boss. He said, well, who could be? He said, I think it's Jesus. And he said, and his chauffeur is Billy Graham. You know, it's getting to who's in top, isn't it? Who's on top and who's in charge. Have you had that experience of having a problem with something and you can't get any satisfaction from those who sold it to you or the manufacturer? And so after a while you get very exasperated and you say, I want to speak to the manager, I want to speak to the person in charge. That was my job with Harvey Norman, because I was sent to solve the problems that came with their goods. And so when they knew that I came, they were feeling a lot more relaxed because they knew the person in charge was going to come and have a look, who was going to solve their problem. The boy takes his girl around to his work, and very proudly he says to her, he said, between 5 and 10 every night, he said, I'm in charge. So, who likes to be in charge? But to be in charge of a business or a store or something like that is just one thing. But to be in charge over the whole universe, that's another. So let's see, as we look today, one of the many examples of Jesus' authority in one of the best stories that I like. It's one of my favourites. Now you might think that I'm doubled up Because I know probably nobody will have remembered what I spoke about last time. But in case you did remember, I'll say, no, it's not about Jesus walking on the water. Same place, not the same situation. So that was in Mark 6. Here we read a classic example of a nature miracle. And miracles of this kind seem to present the greatest problem to the agnostic, to the scoffers and the skeptics. When we read the New Testament, it makes it very clear there that Jesus is not only the Lord of the church, but also the Lord of creation. How do we know that? So let's read one of the stories now, and Linda's got it up for us, and it's not that story, sorry, I'm just one ahead of myself, but I want to read about the scripture confirmation of that statement that I was just making, that Jesus is the Lord of creation. So we're going to look at Colossians 1:16. Christ is the one through whom God created everything in heaven and on earth. He made the things we can see and the things that we can't. Kings, kingdoms, rulers and authorities. Everything has been created through him and for him. He existed before everything else. He began and he holds all creatures together. Christ is the head of the church, which is his body, and it is the first of all who will rise from the dead. So he is the first of everything. So with such a comprehensive endorsement, let's not hear of miracles being a coincidence. Do you believe in miracles? Yes, we do as Christians. It's not a coincidence. It's not myth. It's not an imagination. Jesus, as he claimed to be, the Son of God and the Lord of all creation. If he could raise someone from the dead, surely a nature miracle would be a mere doll for him. So let's read about it now in Mark 4:34 to 41. Thanks, Linda. As evening came, Jesus said to his disciples, "Let's cross to the other side of the lake." He was already in the boat, so they started off, leaving the crowds behind, although other boats followed. But soon a fierce storm, high waves began to break into the boat until it was nearly full of water. Jesus was sleeping in the back with his head on a cushion. Frantically, they woke him, shouting, "Teacher, don't you even care that we are going to drown?" When he woke up, he rebuked the wind and said to the water, "Quieten down." Suddenly the wind dropped and there was great calm. And he asked, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have faith in me?" And they were filled with awe and said among themselves, "Who is this man that even the wind and the waves obey him?" Now Mark was very particular and specific, and he included every detail in that narrative. the time of the day, where Jesus was, where the other boats were, even the cushion, where Jesus was in the boat, all that was said and all that was done. It would suggest to me an eyewitness, and an eyewitness Mark was, who really has had a bad experience on the sea. Can you identify with that? Somebody has a bad experience at sea. It's something you'll always remember. You won't forget it. Now, the geographical position of the lake or the Sea of Galilee makes it very susceptible to sudden, violent and treacherous storms. Situated as it is in a basin, surrounded by mountains, when the hot air of the day rises and meets the cool air of the night. Although generally during the night and early morning it was fairly safe from such storms, but when they did come at that time of the day, they were really more violent and treacherous. Most of the fishing on the Sea of Galilee was done during the night. And it's important for us now to be able to get an accurate picture of what happened in this instance, on this occasion that Mark talks about. Mark punts for us a very vivid picture of the scene. Why? Because he wants us to be involved in it as if we were there. Let's have a look at the boat. Linda, you've got something here which will show us something about what the boat was like that Jesus and the disciples were in at that time. an idea? 12 people. They said, you'd hail. Of course, it wasn't built to withstand waves of 10, 15, 20 feet. The boat plunges nose first and then rises, so its bows pointing to the sky. Danger of flipping over backwards until the next set plunges back in to the trough again and does the same thing. A wall of water so high that you think it surely must tip back. But if you'd seen it and experienced it for yourself, you might have had some similar idea of the recreation of that in the movie The Perfect Storm. You saw that? Gives you some idea of what these little guys had to face in their frail craft. As you look now on the boat, a dozen set of hands cling to the mast. They join you. You're all wet. Your hair is streaked and soaked. Your clothes are dripping and heavy. It says that the boat was gradually filling with water. And as you look, you see 10 pairs of fearful eyes. Because you hear nothing but the howling wind, the screams perhaps of terror. Your thoughts was racing. Nothing can save you now from a watery grave. Can you understand? Are you with me in the story? As you're clinging to that mast, in spite of the terror, in spite of the chaos that's going on around you, something is not right. There is something wrong. And you look around, where is Jesus? Hang on. Didn't we have Jesus with us? He's not on the mast with us. And you peer into the gloom towards the stern, seeing perhaps, or hoping to see, somebody hanging on to the sides of the boat in desperation. But a noise comes through, an impossible noise, one you would never expect, comes through to you as you're clinging to this mast. And it's the noise of someone snoring. Yeah. Jesus had had a very heavy time leading to this. Yep, he was there all right, lying on the back with his head on a cushion. So the cushion was important. It was an important part of the story. And because he'd had such a heavy schedule before, he was very tired. It's the only record in Scripture of Jesus sleeping. Well, we know he slept. I mean, he was fully naked. But this is the only record of it, of him sleeping. And why is that important? It's an important part. It's an integral part of the whole story. Now the disciples were both amazed. He was alive. He was sitting in the back. And perhaps a touch of anger? How would you feel? For in this situation, it's out of their hands. It's out of the hands of man. They can do nothing to save themselves. There's nothing that they can do. It would be impossible. So the chances of them being saved by some other boat or someone else's zilch, none. And so they waken. Master, they said, don't you care? How can you sleep at a time like this? The very storm that made the disciples scream in terror and in panic made him drowsy. What put fear into their eyes put him to sleep. The boat was a tomb for them, but for him it was a cradle. How could he sleep with such a storm going on? Simple. He was in charge of it. He was in charge. He spoke and it calmed. The elements knew who was in charge. Be quiet, he says. Probably, I might have said, shut up. But he wasn't that rude as me. He said, be quiet. And so it was quietened. But they still didn't know who he fully was. Creation quietened, surrendered to his voice. Haven't you seen him in the past? Haven't you been with him all the time? You've been with me, he thought. You saw the deaf hearing, the blind seeing, the lame walking, and the dead raised to life. Haven't you witnessed my power? No wonder they were willing to die for him. Never had they seen such power over creation. And it was only right that they then declare his glory as ruler of the universe. Can we attest to his rule in our lives as he calms the storms that overcome us? Sometimes we can't. Sometimes we can't because we allow things to come in and separate us from him. We've allowed the little things to creep in and so destroy that relationship that we so long and yearn to have with him. You know the story of the banyan tree? And I'll conclude with this. The banyan tree, it's a native tree that grows in countries like India, and it's their native, it's the national tree of the Republic of India. It's a ficus, and it's sometimes called the strangler fig. If you go to Mary Cairncross Park in Maloney, you'll see it as it takes over. Little banyan seed once said to the lofty palm tree, I'm so tired of being tossed hither and thither by the wind. Let me find shelter in the nest of your leaves. Oh yes, said the palm tree. Come and be welcome. Stay as long as you wish. And so the banyan tree nestled down among the leaves of the palm tree, which for very soon quite forgot the presence of the little stranger. But the tiny seed was not idle. It sent out little roots and fibres, which crept around the mighty trunk and under the bark of the palm tree, until at last the tree, in alarm, cried out, "What is this?" The banyan replied, "It is only the little seed that you allowed to find rest among your leaves. But now you must leave me," said the palm tree. "You are growing too large and too strong to stay. You sap my strength. I cannot leave you now," replied the banyan tree. "For we have grown now together. I should kill you if I tore myself away." The palm tree rustled its leaves and tried to throw off the banyan, but it could not. And gradually the palm leaves withered and the great trunk shriveled until all that was left was the banyan tree, which could only be found So it is with the little sins that come creeping into the life of a person. They at last smother all the good which we plan and would want to do. In the Bible, we read of the yeast used to represent sin. Paul writes, "Don't you know what the little yeast works through the whole batch of the dough? Get rid of the old yeast so that you may now be a new batch without yeast." You know, why do you think sometimes in your life that Jesus is asleep in the boat of your life? You know, as long as we allow the little sins to take over, they will become the banyan tree of our lives. We've allowed these banyan seeds a place in our lives. And Jesus wants to be in charge of your life. I wonder, were the disciples more afraid of the power of Jesus than of the power of the storm? Amen. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you, Ron, for your message. Now let us stand for our final song, The Ascension.
A moment when heaven touches earth.